The rest of us are in Judges chapter 20. I want to give a personal thank you to Eli on behalf of all of us for taking a very difficult text and handling it with grace, class, and just showing how wonderful our God is, and also showing, in contrast, how wicked people can become if they get prideful and start doing things that are right in their own eyes. I wish it stopped last week, but it's not going to. We are going to finish the book of Judges today, and even though the height of the debauchery, the height of evil, I guess you could look at that story, and all the vileness that humanity can muster is trapped there right in chapter 19. And we're going to deal with some of the aftermath of that because it doesn't stop. I'm going to tell you one of the things that haunts me is, haunts probably the wrong word, Hosea chapter 11, verse 1. When Israel was a youth, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. Scholars don't know what to do with that. Who did Yahweh call out of Egypt? Did he call Israel, or did he call Yeshua? And it seems like there's a conflation of the image here. And we don't want it to be Yeshua because when we look at the character of the people, you're like, that's not Yeshua. Because we know that Yeshua is perfect, good, right, holy, and everything that is good and right about a man is embodied in our good and gracious God. But then we conflate the two, and what I'm starting to see is what happens is even though Israel is utterly vile, what happens is because of the Messiah and what he does to the tabernacle and the imagery that happens in the laws and the commandments of our God, essentially those things become enmeshed together, and then Yeshua takes the punishment for the debauchery and the ugliness and the vileness that happens in Judges chapter 19. He takes it out on his son. Think about what they should have gotten. So if you weren't here last week, a concubine was cut up and sent to the other parts of Israel as a way to say, look at the vileness of the Benjamite men. What would a holy God do to those sorts of people? I mean, a holy God is like, no, there's a hard stop here. We've got to stamp this out, get the evil out of the camp. But he doesn't take it out on them. He takes it out on his son at Golgotha. We should be all very, very grateful. Father, we have been vile in so many ways. We have fallen short. We have run away. We have eaten of the fruit that was forbidden. And I pray in the name of Messiah Yeshua, not only would people be saved today, but they would stop with the pride and stop being king of their own lives and let you direct them. Direct me. I too am a vile one. I too ate of the forbidden fruit. But thank you, that because of the blood of the Passover lamb, you have seen the life of Yeshua in some sense conflated or atop. It covers me. And what was supposed to happen to me happened to Yeshua on that cross as Passover lamb. And now you've invited all of us to walk with you in your commandments, statutes, and ways. And if we would only not do what is right in our own eyes. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. I do not want to forget, so I'm going to tell you just a quick story and tell you part of the point of today's, what we're talking about. When I was in high school, it was a guy named Coach Red, kind of a vile coach. Back in the 80s when I was going to school in football, not me, but there was a lot of cussing going on. It was nasty. And you could get away with things as a coach that you could not get away with today, but it was vile and horrible. And one time I remember Coach Red coming out of the locker room, and there was a young man who was pretty full of himself, and he would not listen to the coach, and the coach came utterly unglued. And he said to that young man, and I'm not going to imitate it because it would be very aggressive and it would be inappropriate, but it was basically a lot of F you for not listening to me, because when you do that, you are disrespecting my character and who I am. And there was a lot of bad words. And it was layers upon layers of bad words. And I remember in my heart feeling the weight of that coach. It stayed with me to this day. It stayed with me enough that, man, I got to really, really watch it, because in manland you can get pretty aggressive, and I determined that I don't really want to be like that. I want to be known as a gentleman and someone that's fully in control of my emotions, and I want to treat others around me in a very gentle manner. Now, I do want to be able to step up when that time happens, but not against my family and not against the players who I coach, or whatever that might be, my students or so forth. That is only allowed when the enemy is attacking. You know, if a wolf comes in and I need to protect you, and hopefully you'd protect me, but I'm in that spot. The elders of a congregation are to protect, and we're going to step up if we have to. When we disregard the commandments of our God, thank the Lord that He has chosen not to put you in your place in the way that coach did that young man. In fact, Yahweh acted to you in not relation in responding to your character. He stayed within His own character of meekness, His own character of humility. He stayed within that, and instead of taking it out on you, He took your place, and He took the full wrath of God in Him. I think there's also something counterintuitive happening. A lot of times, here's what I've heard people tell me, because I observe the instructions of our God, otherwise known as the Torah. They somehow think that I'm doing works righteousness. What I'm starting to see is, now just be honest, everyone is working. Every person is working. They're going to church, they're praying, they're giving to the poor, they're working, they're doing things. Everyone is working. So the question becomes, why are you working, and what are you doing in that work? To which we all understand, hopefully if you don't, I'm going to tell you right now, we all understand that we are saved by grace through faith, not of our works. Nor can we be sanctified by our works. You can't do any amount of a work, in other words, doing the commandments of God post-salvation, that somehow gains you merit with the Lord. There's blessing in it, but doesn't gain you merit, nor does it sanctify you. You can participate in your sanctification, but it is the Lord through the Spirit that sanctifies. So the reason that we work is because we're allowing the Spirit to work through our lives, and then we read the Scriptures, we look at the commandments of God that elevate Messiah Yeshua, and we do those things that elevate the Messiah. If you do any other work besides that, and you're not taking your cue from the Heavenly Father, you're engaged in works righteousness, because now you are determining what is the good. It's actually opposite. The reason I do it is as a it's an outpouring of who I am based on just one idea, and that is, I am nothing, you are everything, you are the king, I am your subject, I don't want to go against you, I don't want to continue to eat of the apple. Not an apple. Whatever that fruit was, and essentially Eve, when she took that, and Adam, when he took it, they're saying, I do not want you to determine the good and the evil, I'm going to make up my own work that makes me feel holy before you. That is incorrect. And everyone's engaged in it. The only reason I would say that those who are looking to do the Torah are not engaged in it is because they're doing it because they understand that it's only an expression of love. The Spirit indwells us, and we look to the Scriptures because we don't want to manage ourselves. I don't want to. We've all had this speech. We've done it even on our own heads. Oh, please, self, don't manage yourself, because every time you do something, you totally wreck it for yourself. But for whatever reason, we still like ourselves, and we still do those things. And that's part of the reason it's so important to continue to come together week after week, because for some reason we are short-minded. We need to be reminded constantly to give ourselves, to say no to self, and give ourselves over to the things of God. Yahweh really wants just some simplicity from you. He's asking you, frankly, don't think. I have a relationship with you. I want you to grab my finger, and I'm going to be your daddy, and I'm going to walk you through life. And you do not need to worry about your clothing, about your food, about how long you're going to live. You cannot change one hair on your head. You can't determine when you're going to die. You know, tomorrow has enough worries of its own. Just you, as my children, just try to make it through the day. And as you just try to make it through the day, could you trust me to guide you? And for whatever reason, we adults in adult land think we need to plan everything out. And Yahweh doesn't want that. Now, I'm not going to just totally, there's some planning. It's okay to be responsible and make sure you have enough money for the rent and all that. You can go through Proverbs. But there's an underlying idea here is even in the planning, which you should do, you don't want to plan so much that somehow, and here's the besetting sin, that somehow you think you can actually order your next step in life. You don't know when you're going to lose your house, a family member. And the same is true of a body. I didn't know just this last week that we were going to lose this place. I just don't know. No one knows. But we're not supposed to know. We're supposed to trust and obey. And when we do that, and let me just tell you, the fundamental issue of why we want to take control of our lives is we're fundamentally prideful. We're too caught up in ourselves. And we've got to just say no to that. Now, why does that play into here? Well, it plays in a lot, and you're going to see why. In the last chapter, I'm going to say some conjecture-y things, and I don't want to go too far into it, but enough conjecture to go, Yahweh, you have embedded the messianic story in Saul, in David, and even Jephthah. And I want you to know that sometimes you look at these stories and you're like, ooh, you're pretty vile. I can't see any Yeshua in that at all. Well, again, this is kind of a dark mirror. It's like they were supposed to do something right, but then because of their humanity, they really, really messed up. Think about King David. When we look at him, don't we look on him with fondness? Of course. Until you see that day when he is doing bad things to Bathsheba and then kills her husband in order to do bad things with Bathsheba. If we just caught that snippet of David's life on that day, we would go, ooh, you're really, really not a good guy. Character is just the most horrid thing ever. But graciously, Yahweh looks at a man's whole life. Okay, and even that, it's just a matter of a redeeming factor of God in that he takes this really messed up David of a man and still uses him as a way to show how good this God is in Messiah Yeshua. I don't know what your life has been like and what your issues are, but whatever it is, you're vile. And I know I'm vile too. But I don't want to continue to walk indefinitely in my vileness. At some point, if you want your life to go well and be pleasing to the Father that you want to follow, what you must do is to say, I am no longer going to try to guide my steps and determine what the good and the evil is. I'm not going to perpetually find loopholes to get around the commandments that God has given me. And they're going to find some loopholes here. Even the Levite from last time, he took on a concubine. I want you to know you're no better than a concubine, just like me. But this concubine, she played the harlot. Have you not played the harlot? I've played the harlot. And then where does she go? She goes to Bethlehem. Where does the Levite go to speak tenderly to her heart? To Bethlehem. Where was Yeshua born? Bethlehem. And even in the text, it says that he spoke tenderly to her heart. Hosea, what does he do? He says, hey, I want you to take this girl. Her name's Gomer. She's going to cheat on you a lot, but I want you to still love her anyway. And when she's really, really getting around with those men, I want you to take her out to the desert, and I want you to speak tenderly to her heart. And Yahweh says, that's what I do with Israel. She's played the harlot. And this woman, potentially, this is nothing to detract. I want you to know I am a man that is learning. I can totally see why these texts are not preached too much in our churches, because there's a lot there. And I'm looking at all this. I'm like, here's my prevailing thought this week. I am not qualified to teach this. I only take solace in that none of my seminary professors were qualified either. And no one I've ever heard talk about these kinds of topics. Now, in retrospect, as I've heard them talk about it, they just regurgitated the story with no insight whatsoever, no comparing other scriptures. And I'm thinking to myself, you weren't qualified either because you do not see the scriptures in their totality. And here's the deal, I don't either. But I'm starting to see just enough to see that we see glimpses, and essentially what happens with this concubine is some kind of this reverse covenant. Remember, what is a blood covenant? Where they took that cow, they cut it in half, and they separated those two, and essentially there's this broken covenant that is happening, and the Levite has taken this woman, and he's cut her up in 12 pieces. I'm sorry to have to just say it plainly, but he sends it out. And it seems like he wants to incite war. Chapter 19, verse 30. It's not up here. Only the text is up here. And all who saw it, meaning all the men of Israel, they saw that all these pieces of this woman have come to their place. Nothing like this has ever happened or been seen from the day when the sons of Israel came up from the land of Egypt to this day. Consider it, take counsel, and speak up. They all look at what has happened to this woman and they hear the story. What happened? What got him to this place to begin with? Well, you had this Levite who becomes a man. We went through that last week. We have this concubine. She is abused and left for dead the next morning. Benjamites have violated her in the worst possible way. And look, this is an innocent woman in that way. Innocent, she didn't deserve that. But the vileness of people who worshiped other gods, who just did what was right in their own eyes. We know from Romans chapter 1, when people do what's right in their own eyes, Yahweh gives them over to the base parts of their mind. You can read all about it in Romans chapter 1. They start exchanging natural relations for unnatural ones, and also irrational. They start to worship creatures. The things that people do when they divorce themselves from God gets really weird. You know, I'm in a classroom, and here I am actually sharing the gospel, and one of the other people starts sharing about tarot cards. And they're equally listening to me and the person about the tarot cards. And I'm thinking to myself, what planet am I on that I'm sharing the good news about Yeshua, and someone has equal hearing and they're talking about tarot cards? What planet am I on? How is this even rational? But that's what happens when people are prideful and they walk in their own stuff. They start thinking all kinds of weird things. So they consider it, chapter 20, verse 1. Then all the sons of Israel from Dan to Beersheba, that just means all of Israel, including the land of Gilead, which is now east of the Jordan. So, in other words, all of Israel, they came out, and the congregation assembled as one man, meaning they're all together at Mizpah, Mizpah is just a heightened place. And the chiefs of all the people, even all the tribes of Israel, took their stand in the assembly of the people of God, and there's 400,000 foot soldiers who draw the sword. Then the sons of Benjamin heard that the sons of Israel had gone up to Mizpah. And the sons of Israel said, "Tell us, how did this evil take place?" So the Levite, the one I was just telling you about, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered and said, "I came with my concubine to spend the night at Gibeah." Gibeah is basically the capital of Benjamin. Remember, there's 12 tribes. They all have been given an allotment or an inheritance in the land of Israel. Gibeah is in Benjamin, and Benjamin it's a small little clan, and they've become the worst of the worst. Now, this is going to go back to, and I want to alert you just now, in a prophecy in Genesis chapter 49. And I'm not going to go through each one of the prophecies that Jacob prophesies over each one of his sons because, in case you don't know, it's Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Jacob has his name changed to Israel. Then you have the 12 tribes of Israel because Israel has 12 sons, but they're by different people. There's 4 people. And this prophecy was to Judah. So in Genesis chapter 49, verse 10, listen, remember, our Messiah is a lion in the tribe of Judah. So it says the scepter, this is the prophecy, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet until Shiloh comes. Shiloh now is the capital. It's not Jerusalem yet. That's going to happen when David comes along. But Shiloh in Israel. So until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the obedience of the peoples. He ties his foal to the vine and his donkey's colt to the choice vine. He washes his garments in wine. And I want you to see that the language here is kind of now shifting over to language that would be used with Yeshua. He washes his garments in wine and his robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are dark from wine and his teeth white from milk. So here we have a lion. Scepter won't depart. Now, part of this is, how did Judah get this good standing with God? He's not the firstborn, he's number 4. The firstborn, Reuben, he did something really, really bad. It seems like he went and slept with his dad's mom. with his dad's mom. That'd be really bad. His dad's wife, but a concubine. This story is a little unclear, but he violated the bed. And when you do that, you don't get firstborn rights anymore. The next two, Levi and Simeon, did something really bad in Shechem, and they killed a bunch of people, and it was just horrible mayhem. They took matters in their own hands. It was just nasty, nasty, nasty. So they also lost that firstborn birthright. But Judah's a little bit different. Now, Judah made a terrible mistake in Genesis chapter 38. You can read about it. It's like a little parenthetical chapter. But here's what happens. Joseph is basically left for dead. If you've read Genesis, you know that he was thrown into a pit. They end up going down into Egypt because there's a famine, and they don't recognize that Joseph, he's like disguised, and essentially Benjamin, the youngest, it gets left behind, and Judah, he steps up and he says, you know, my dad, we can't go back and get Benjamin because Joseph says, go get Benjamin because I don't believe you, and you need to go get all your brothers. They need to be here and together in one place. And Jacob thinks Joseph is dead, and so if Benjamin goes, I mean, Jacob is like an old guy, and he's just like, I cannot let Benjamin go. My first son by Rebekah, he's already dead, but he wasn't dead. I mean, he's already gone. I can't let him go. But then Judah says, keep me as surety. So without making a long story longer, here's what you need to see in Judah. He becomes, in a sense, kingly because he's willing to sacrifice his own life for the good of his brother. In Benjamin's stead. Now, there's going to be a lion that rises up in the tribe of Judah. Not only is it Yeshua, but it's also King David. But the way that he takes over is because Saul is from the tribe of Benjamin. And the rightful line of the kingship should have gone to Jonathan, but Jonathan humbles himself and yields himself to David. This is what I want you to see here. You're all Benjamites. You're all Benjamin. You're all, now let's read that prophecy. It is in chapter 49. Verse 27, pretty short. Genesis chapter 49, verse 27. Benjamin isn't a lion. He's a ravenous wolf. In the morning he devours the prey, and in the evening he divides the spoil. Acts like a wolf. Have you ever heard that term, a wolf in sheep's clothing? Guess what you are? You're a wolf. I'm a wolf. I have been that person. I know what this feels like. I'm talking from experience. I'm going to get what's mine. I'm going to maneuver things and people and whatever it is in order to raise myself up. I'd like to tell you I don't do that anymore, but I have my glimpses of selfishness. But you do too. But at some point, when will the Benjamin in you yield to the true and righteous king? Because we are a wolf, and we've got to let the Judah, that king, reign in our lives, and we've got to yield. And that's one of the biggest parts of this message today is, what's it going to take to get us to completely yield? So, let me continue on. So I'm in Judges chapter 20, verse 4. So the Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered and said, I came with my concubine to spend the night at Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. And then the men of Gibeah, they rose up against me and surrounded the house at night because of me, which is all true. And they intended to kill me. Instead, they violated my concubine and she died. And I seized my concubine and I cut her in pieces and sent her throughout the land of Israel's inheritance. I think this is, in some sense, a cosmic way of saying the covenant is completely broken. I came to make you whole, but you chose vileness. cutting it up, sending it back. Now, this is not like Yahweh, but this is humanity doing vile things. And here's the outcome for a humanity that does vile things. The covenant is utterly and eternally broken. But that's part of what the good news is. This can all be solved. I do this with people all the time. I don't want to tell all those stories, but I'm like, do you know how simple it is? Like, it pains me to tell people, you're kind of like Benjamin. You kind of cut up people. You're kind of selfish. You kind of have issues. You really, really messed up. It's hard for me to have that conversation, but there's this like silver lining in the back of my head. But there is a solution to your issues. There's a solution to all your vileness. And here's what needs to be very clear to everybody. There is nothing that anyone can do. No work, no goodness, no giving $1 million to a church. Nothing that can cover your issues. Nothing. There's only one thing that can do that. The perfect Lamb of Messiah, Yeshua, who wants to step in your place and give his life for you. That's it. And let me tell you, I just think that's good news. Because you can't get fixed on your own. But now post good news. Isn't this the question that should be on everyone's mind? Got it. I accept it. I need to be cleansed. Now what? Here's our job. Our job is to not make our own decisions. Our job is to listen to the instruction of our God and walk in them. Now think about you as a parent. But I don't understand while I'm walking in that. What would you do it because I said so. You don't do anything to your kids because you just like, you know what? I know you're going to trip up over this, so I'm going to put a stumbling block in your way. None of you says that to your children. So even when you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, why do I not eat pork? Why do I do this feast day? Why do I have to care about that tabernacle? Whatever it is, our job is not understand it all. Our job is to walk in it, and if we get the privilege of understanding it along the way, then so be it. But if not, at the very least, we can hold his finger and walk in it. So again, verse 7, behold, all you sons of Israel, give your advice and counsel here. So the Levites saying this, okay, all you men, you got 400,000 fighting men. You've heard the case. Speak up. What's your advice? What's your counsel? And these guys are going to make some rash judgments. Verse 8, then all the people arose as one man, saying, not one of us will go to his tent, nor will any of us turn aside to his house. But now this is the thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will rise up against it by lot. And we will take 10 men out of 100 throughout the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000, in order to take up provisions for the people, that when they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, they may do to them according to all the disgraceful acts which they have done in Israel. In other words, we are going to war. You see that list? 100, 1,000, 10,000. That is basically their way of saying, not only do we have the warriors, we're going to make a supply chain. We're going to camp out our people in very regimented groups, and no one's going to wonder how they're going to get fed, because we're going to have a supply line getting them food. They're going to be exactly there, ready to fight. These 26,000 or so, there'd be a couple more than that, Benjamites, but we have 400,000, and we are not going to wear out. So just bring it on, because this is going to you're going to solve this the easy way. You can surrender, or it's going to be the hard way. Verse 11, thus all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, united as one man. Verse 12, then the tribes of Israel sent men through the entire tribe of Benjamin, saying, what is this evil that has taken place among you? So now give up the men, the vile fellows of Gibeah. In other words, hey, you clan of Benjamin, you better find those vile men and bring them to us, because we're going to get them one way or another. We're either going to get them because you gave them to us, or we're going to kill all of you because we're getting to them one way or the other. That we may put them to death and purge this evil from Israel. Now, I know there's parts of us that well, at least these guys are finally stepping up. But what you're going to see is they're going to step up in their own way and continue to not consult God on how to do it. But the sons of Benjamin were not willing. Look at those Benjamites. I mean, talk about the chutzpah. They were not willing to listen to the voice of their brothers and the sons of Israel. Why? Pride. We don't care. Bring it on. Then the sons of Benjamin gathered from the cities of Gibeah to go out to battle against the sons of Israel. And from the cities on that day, the sons of Benjamin numbered 26,000 men who draw the sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, who were numbered 700 choice men. Out of all these 700 choice men, they're left-handed. That was basically their way of saying, we've got 700 F-35s, and they're ready to go. How's that F-35s? Well, I don't know if you get your little scrolly TikTok things or whatever it is that you scroll on. Mine's Facebook. They've done a pretty good job learning how to scroll. But I'm now on the ones where they're do the slings. And the slings, when they sling those rocks, yeah, they're good. And I'm gonna get me a sling, I think. I'm not gonna be around your house when I do it. I'm gonna get it and be in a controlled environment. But those things go 160 miles an hour, and bam, and they have different lengths. I've been watching them, and they're good. And I can kind of see how David, he might have been right-handed, I don't know, but he popped that Goliath right in the head. 5 smooth stones. But here's my point. They were really good. Now notice what it says about those left-handed guys. Each one could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. They were well practiced. Even in baseball, the left-handers, they throw, for whatever reason, they get you off, right? They're throwing 99 coming from the left, your right-handed batter. Well, all those guys, they would go out to battle, and they would carry those shields in their left hand, and they would have the sword in the right. So if you had a left-hander, that rock would come around that shield and pop them. So having someone who could throw left-handed, essentially ambidextrous types, they were really good at slinging. You're going to see about how good they were. Verse 17, and the men of Israel besides Benjamin were numbered 400,000 men who draw the sword. All these were men of war. Then the sons of Israel arose, went up to Bethel, the house of God, and they asked God and said, who shall go up for us to begin the battle against the sons of Benjamin? Look, who is it? Yahweh said, send the lion. Send Judah. There's a prophetic element here. I'll tell you what's happening. Conjecture, but I think I'm going to be able to prove it. Just can't do it today because there's too much text to go over. Here's the enemy that you don't want in your life, and that's Yahweh. Israel, they don't like the Ammonites. They don't like the Philistines. They don't like Goliath. But there was one enemy that sometimes came against Israel, and you don't want that enemy. But because of their disobedience, Yahweh has them exiled sometimes, and it's not an easy process. That whole Babylonian exile thing, because of disobedience. When the Assyrians came, because of disobedience. What happened in 70 AD with the destruction of the temple? You think that just happened? No, it was because of disobedience. You don't want your enemy to be Yahweh. You're going to have enemies. Satan is out to get you. I just want you to know that. Satan is out to get you. He wants to trip you up. He wants to steal, kill, and destroy you and your family. And I see it happen in families all the time. And I hate to deliver that, but it's just true. You know it. You see it. It's evil. But one thing you don't want is to get yourself in a spot where you're saying, I'm too big for my britches. I will determine the good and the evil, and I'm going to start deciding for my own life what I'm supposed to do. Don't do that. Yahweh says, send in Judah. Now, ultimately, I think this story is one of Judah, the lion of the tribe of Judah, Messiah Yeshua, overcoming death, because you're going to see on the third day that they're finally overcome. Does death hold Messiah Yeshua on the first day? Yes. Does death hold Messiah Yeshua on the second day? Yes. But what happens on the third day? He raises up. Death could not hold him. You're going to see it. Verse 19, so the sons of Israel arose in the morning and camped against Gibeah. And the men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin. And the men of Israel arranged themselves for battle against them at Gibeah. And then the sons of Benjamin. By the way, Benjamin means the son of my right hand. Which is kind of weird because now we're elevating people with left hands. Which just tells me that if you're the son of my right hand, you allow Yahweh to fight your battles. But instead, these people are fighting the battles on their own. Another thing I'll accuse you of is being left-handed. You're like, I'm left-handed. Don't put me down like that. Hey, it's a metaphor, people. Come on. And besides, maybe you could throw a slingshot real well. Verse 21, then the sons of Benjamin came out of Gibeah and destroyed to the ground on that day 22,000 men of Israel. The Benjamites, what did they do? How many did they destroy? 22,000 of the men of Israel. That means those left-handed gunslingers, they went to town, took out 22,000. That's a pretty big loss. But the people, the men of Israel, strengthened themselves and arranged themselves for battle again in the place where they had arranged themselves the first day. And the sons of Israel went up and wept before Yahweh. Now, this is Yahweh starting to refine. I do think that the men of Israel that are coming against the tribe of Benjamin because of the evil committed against that woman, I think they're actually repenting. And this is going to be key for us. I think their hearts are actually repenting. We're sorry. But they tried to fix the issue. Even though they were sorry, they tried to fix the issue based on finding loopholes again. You're going to see it. But I've noticed this with believers. They've got the Jesus died on the cross thing down pat. I got it. I'm sorry, my sin. I know I've done bad things. Okay? And I could name them. Abortions, premarital sex, stealing, whatever stuff you've done. And some people have even given their hearts over because they know I can't solve that issue. And I know before God, everything is laid bare. I need that covered up. But here's what I found with people. They've got that part down. But the thing is, we have got to go on into obedience because true faith without what is dead, works. You have got to have a faith that is manifested in a life of unrebelliousness. Otherwise, the faith that you had at the first, it's dead. When the sons of Israel, verse 23, they went up and wept before Yahweh until evening and asked Yahweh, saying, shall we again approach for battle against the sons of my brother Benjamin? And Yahweh said, go up against them. In other words, they just lost 22,000. I mean, imagine if you had a portfolio of $400,000. One day you lost 22 grand. You're like, should I pull out of that, that particular stock? Now I'm talking to you like you have that kind of money, because I know you don't, and I don't either. But I don't know. I can imagine. I can only imagine. That was a wrong. I do a lot of wrong things. That was probably one of them. Verse 24. Then the sons of Israel drew near to the sons of Benjamin the second day. And Benjamin went out to meet them from Gibeah the second day and destroyed the ground again, 18,000 men of the sons of Israel. All these drew the sword. Then all the sons of Israel and all the people went up and came to Bethel and wept. Thus they remained before Yahweh and fasted that day until evening. I do think I see. The text seems to say that you are repentant. I mean, and this is true, I think, of people's lives, that when you're really down and out, that's when you go to God. I'm guessing that had they not won that victory, they would not have probably repented like that. And I've just got to be honest with you and with myself. When are the times that I really pour out my heart to Yahweh? And that is when I'm going through stuff. Because I can't fabricate pain. I can't fabricate that thing that yearns for help. I can't fabricate it. And unfortunately, Yahweh is faithful to bring in those things. And I'll tell you, I go overboard to try to cry out to him all the time, because I do not want him to have to get me to a spot where I have to cry out. So just better to cry out. They offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before Yahweh, verse 27. Then the sons of Israel asked of Yahweh. Now the ark of the covenant of God was there in those days. Oh, look, an appearance of the ark. Wonder what's happening here. We have an appearance of the ark. We've got Yeshua dead for 2 days, but he's not dead. He's down in the place ministering to the spirits in prison, but death is not going to hold him. But again, why does the ark show up here? It's because there's a resurrection that's going to take place. Verse 28, and look at this. And Phinehas, we've already studied him, the son of Eleazar, Aaron's son, stood before it to minister in those days, saying, shall I yet again go out to battle against the sons of my brother Benjamin, or shall I cease? Again, there's a civil war. Yahweh is using Israel to fight Israel. This is a crazy time. And Yahweh said, go up, for tomorrow I will give them into your hand. So Israel set men in ambush around Gibeah, and the sons of Israel went up against the sons of Benjamin on the third day. And they arrayed themselves against Gibeah as at other times. So the sons of Benjamin went out to meet the people and were drawn away from the city. And they began to strike and slay some of the people as at other times on the highways, of which goes up to Bethel and the other to Gibeah. And in the field, about how many men of Israel? About 30. Where have you seen that number before? Yeshua is betrayed for 30 shekels. Now, back in war times, this is kind of a sad thing, but it kind of happened like this. We need to draw our enemy out. We need them to think that they're winning. And we need to let some of our soldiers go down to let them have that false sense of something starting to happen here. So we're going to sacrifice 30 men. I'm not saying that's exactly the way it played out, but I've studied enough of war games in this situation that when you got 400,000 men, you will do this in order to get your enemy a little bit overconfident. Same is true. I can see a cosmic something going on with the Messiah, with Yahweh and Satan, the battle. We have sold him for 30 shekels of silver. I'm sure that Satan thinks that he is winning. But he is not. It is a trap. And at the end of the age, Yeshua is going to return. There's going to be a millennial kingdom, and he's going to lock up Satan forever. And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, this is some type of fallen angel type thing, whatever it is, knows a lot of stuff. Did you actually think you could thwart the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the King of the universe, the creator of all things? No. It's a chess match, and the master's going to win it. And here's the thing, he's going to win it with you too. I think really sometimes Satan is the least of our worries. It is my own issues that puts a block between me and the Messiah. That's why, honestly, I'm convinced that you don't see a lot of demonic activity. The reason you don't is because Satan doesn't need to use that tool on you. Pride works just fine. Your desire to eat the apple daily by giving yourself permission to determine what is good, you do that just fine on your own. And it's a rebellion. Now I'm talking to you. I'm not here to beat you up. I'm letting you know that I got to preach to myself, that I have to constantly remind myself that it is not my job to determine next steps in my life. It is not my job to do anything other than what the King has commanded me to do, and do that and do it only, and to allow the Spirit to overtake me, because my heart tends to be rebellious, and I've got to say no to the rebellion. I don't want to do what's right in my own eyes. I don't want to withhold stuff from you, Lord. And we've gone over Malachi, so we know there are things that we withhold from the Lord. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to withhold. I want to have a fully circumcised heart. Don't you? And the sons of Benjamin said, they are defeated before us. As at first, look, we're gaining ground. But the sons of Israel said, let us flee that we may draw them away from the city to the highways. And then all the men of Israel arose from their place and arrayed themselves at Baal Tamar, which means the Lord of the palm tree. And then the men of Israel in ambush burst forth of their place, even out of Merah Geba. I looked that up too. Maybe it wasn't worth writing down. I don't know. Then 10,000 choice men from all Israel came against Gibeah, and the battle became heavy. But Benjamin did not know that calamity was about to reach them. Neither does the wicked know that calamity is about to reach them. The thing is, we're talking about Benjamin here. And that's just the thing. Remember, we've already discussed in the book of Judges that the people of Israel, you could not tell them anymore that they were any longer worshipers of Yahweh. They looked like any other country, surrounding nation, worshiping other foreign gods like Dagon. They look like everybody else. And so what happens is Benjamin becomes, we don't know, is it Benjamin, like the son of Jacob, or is it Benjamin, the vile man? We don't know. But ultimately, if you become the Benjamin, like Jonathan, that yields to David, if you become the Benjamin that repents of their sin and allows the king of Judah to rule over your life, then he starts to pick out the Benjamin that is his from the Benjamin that's of the world. And what happens to the Benjamin of the world? They are utterly destroyed. Now you're going to see that they're not utterly destroyed, because in this story, he doesn't want their name to be blotted out from Israel. Well, then Yahweh defeated Benjamin before Israel, so that the sons of Israel destroyed 25,100 men of Benjamin that day, all who drew the sword. So the sons of Benjamin saw that they were defeated. Now the men of Israel had given ground to Benjamin because they relied on the men in ambush whom they had set against Gibeah. So the men in the ambush hurried and rushed against Gibeah, and then the men in the ambush deployed and struck all the city with the edge of the sword. Now the appointed sign between the men of Israel and the men in ambush was that they would make a great cloud of smoke that would rise in the city. Verse 39, so the men of Israel had turned around in the battle, and Benjamin had begun to strike and slay about 30 men of Israel. So what you're seeing here is a retelling of the story. And I'm going to just kind of say, if you want to read it, you can continue to read it. I'm going to skip down to verse 47. There were 600 men, though, that turned and fled. So verse 47. They turned and fled toward the wilderness and the rock of Rimmon, the rock of the pomegranate. You got a hard exterior shell, but you got seeds there. And they remained at the rock of Rimmon 4 months. Now, some of you who have learned that there's always prophetic imagery in these 4 months. Could it be 4 days, 4 months? I don't know. You can tell me a little bit later because you'll know the answer. Verse 48. Now the men of Israel returned to the sons of Benjamin and struck them with the edge of the sword, both the entire city with the cattle and all that they found. And they set on fire all the cities that they had found. So I want you to know that Benjamin and Gibeah basically utterly destroyed, but there's 600 that got away. Could 600 be the number of man? Maybe. Don't know. I couldn't tell you. I'm still learning myself. But I want to just pause here and ask, do you have any further insights, questions, or whatever where we are so far until you see how the men of Israel try to find a loophole because they're very kind of messed up in their hearts over what's happened. But we'll get there. What do you have, if anything? Questions, comments, or insights? Oh, don't leave me by myself. You know you have stuff. Do you really have no stuff? You've got stuff. Someone's got something. I ain't going to force it, but how about this? I'll awkwardly pause for a little while and see how long you can handle it. I think Natalia has something. Yeah? So we can hear you, Natalia.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia.
Appreciate about your visual, and you show not just word, you feel that what you say, and you give direction. Central, Jesus is central, God is central, whatever. God is central is very good way, because we know when bomb attacks start in Ukraine, without God, it's like never. Never life come again, because just destruction, just death everywhere. And we understand God is life. And when you go to God, you go and have invite with life. And thank you so much for your words.
Thank you, Natalia. I just want to say thank you. English is her second language. I mean, you imagine going yourself to Ukraine and talking. It's a hard thing. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Victor. 2 points. One, this wouldn't be a story if they did what Yah told them to do when they got in the land in the first place, which was to wipe out all of the people in the land. And it's apparent that they adopted the ways of the land. Second thing is that instead of Benjamin, as you alluded to earlier, instead of Benjamin repenting, they decided they were going to go out and protect these people who did this. You know, so that's how much the world got into them, that not only did they do it, but they defended doing it.
Right. Let me tell you why I say that. We can all look at this story and we think to ourselves, you've got to be outside your mind to protect those vile people. And Yahweh's going, yeah, but I put this story in here about you. You've got to be outside your mind that you're going to continue to protect the vileness in your heart. You'll walk out of here today and continue to do the same thing. I'm not getting at you. I'm just telling you that's the human condition that we all have to work through. Yes, sir.
Thank you. This is Michael. You said it all when you mentioned Phineas. I mean, where have we heard Phineas' story before? It's in the middle of Balaam, who's also mentioned in Revelation, because it is a time where Israel, through sexual immorality, creates great sin. And this whole story is led to the same aspect. And Phineas is, I can't even comprehend. He's like, these are my brothers doing this terrible thing, and I'm now going to have to repeat this? What am I going to do? I mean, he's been so blessed for the Lord by spearing the two at the camp and stopping the plague, yet he has to repeat it in a completely different manner with all of Israel. So to me, this is just doing what they thought was right in their own eyes and taking some righteous men and putting them in an impossible situation to have to go before Yahweh and say, what do I do to have this be purged? I thought your comment about saying how you have to take and separate the goats from the sheep, and the ones that are the goats get left behind and are willowed away. They're like the tares. They have to be taken care of. So this story just reminds us in our own lives what we have to do to willow away, and don't get to this point.
Yeah, I know that I have to go fast here, right? So you have Shiloh, the tabernacle, you have Phineas, priest. And think of this. Before the Israelites were getting rid of the other people who were inhabiting the promised land, that were actually vile, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, all the ites that we can't barely read. And we know we need to get out of them. Now, look what's happened. Benjamin has become one of them. And see what Yahweh is doing? He's saying, I am placing my tabernacle and my priest right in the middle of this civil war because I'm not going to let Benjamin go. He's like placing it right there. He's saving them from death. Yep. Anyone else? Okay, let's continue on. Now the men of Israel, chapter 21, verse 1, had sworn in Mizpah, saying, none of us shall give his daughter to Benjamin as a wife. This is it's a rash oath. There's a couple other things that's going to happen when we get to 1 Samuel. Saul makes a rash oath that no one can eat until he wins, and then Jonathan, his own son, eats, and they're like, dude, you're dead. So he's not, but almost could have been. Another thing, too, is that Saul is going to cut up 2 oxen, and he's going to send it throughout Israel. We're not going to get to teach on that today, but it's like, why does he do that? And the Hebrew words of using to cut up those oxen and what was used to cut up the concubine are the exact same Hebrew words, and it's sent to send a message to all Israel. So when you get there in 1 Samuel, we'll get there soon enough. So the people came to Bethel, verse 2, and sat there before God until evening and lifted up their voice and wept bitterly. And they said, why, O Yahweh, God of Israel, has this come about in Israel? And Yahweh's like, really? Really? You don't know why? I mean, come on. So that one tribe should be missing today from Israel. They have buyer's remorse. They've done something and they know the implications. They've broken up the family. Imagine because of your actions if there's a family member now that is totally left out of eternity with God because of your actions. Now can you feel the weight? They're feeling this weight. Verse 4, now it happened the next day that the people arose early and built an altar there and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. And here's the thing, I think at this point, potentially they're doing fine. But then they get right back into their stinking thinking. They're going to start to do things in their own way again. And that's what that's the message here. The message is, don't stop doing the things of God. Don't try to figure out the battles. We have the feast days coming up. Take the day off and observe it. Just obey. Don't say, I want to do the things of God, but then you don't do the things of God. Don't walk out of here, oh my gosh, I don't want to be like a Levite. I don't want to eat the fruit that I'm not supposed to eat of. And then we have like amnesia. And then we forget to trust. When Terry was up here and say when we plan to fail, we literally, like you almost plan to fail. You have got to put it on your calendar. That's why when we do the Last Supper and we're closing the doors at 7, is if you haven't been anticipating that from this day until then, you are not worthy of the Lamb of God. Plan it. Look forward to it. When I go on a date with Amy, I mean, just imagine me not really like wanting to do that. It makes no sense. Yet somehow we treat the author of all life in that manner. Then the sons of Israel said, who is there among the tribes of Israel who did not come up in the assembly of Yahweh? So they're going to be looking for someone that when we called those 400,000 men to war, if you didn't come up, that might be our answer. Because we've got to find some virgin wives for these 600 men that don't have wives. So we're going to go kill them. And we're going to take their virgins, and then they can marry them. Can you see how this is just wonky? But that's what they're going to do. For they had taken a great oath concerning who did not come up to Yahweh at Mizpah, saying, he shall surely be put to death. And the sons of Israel were sorry for their brother Benjamin and said, our one tribe is cut off from Israel today. What shall we do for wives for those who are left? We got to get these guys married, but there's the problem. We took an oath. And in our oath, we said we're not going to give any of our wives to those vile, vile people. And there's just men left because we killed all their wives. Whoop, problem. But we have sworn by Yahweh not to give them any of our daughters in marriage. Verse 8. So they said, what one is there of the tribes of Israel who did not come up to Yahweh at Mizpah? And behold, no one had come up to camp they found some people. People that live kind of up in, Auburn and way to the right. They're just kind of camped out there. Maybe they didn't hear. Maybe they're like, we have our HOAs. We're good. We don't really want to, that's kind of your thing. We're fine. Thank you very much. Those are the people of Jabesh Gilead to the assembly. Now, Jabesh Gilead, they're going to get wiped out. And likely this is where Saul's mom comes from. And it's going to be the first battle that he defends them from the Ammonites. So I just want you to know, put that in the back of your mind, that there's going to be reversal with King Saul. Now, King Saul, he ain't going to get it done in the sense that he is not like David in his heart. But still, at the very beginning, he tries. Verse 9. Indeed, the people were numbered, but behold, not one of the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead was there. And the congregation sent 12,000 of the men of valor, good fighting men, there and commanded them, saying, go strike the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword, with the women and the little ones. Now, I want you to know, a lot of people read this to me and say, the God of the Old Testament, no, I can't do that. If you read it slowly enough, who's doing the killing and why? It ain't God. It's the decrepit, vile people that have created the situation. It is the people that bring about death and evil. Verse 11, now this is the thing that you shall do. You shall devote to destruction, clear them out. Every man, every woman that was known, that is lain with a man, and they found among the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead 400 young virgins. And of course, Traver mind, how'd they know? Well, they did some inspections, the older women way back. It was really, I don't know if it's an OBGYN thing. I'm not even trying to make light. I'm just trying to say that, they knew. In part because of the anatomy, in part because when you weren't married off yet, they would find you younger with your father. And they didn't have issues of sleeping around back then. It's not how things worked. So they knew who those virgins were. Virgins who had not known a man by lying with him, and they brought them to the camp at Shiloh, which is the land of Canaan. Then the whole congregation sent word and spoke to the sons of Benjamin, who were at the rock of the pomegranates. It's almost a sense, the pomegranate is a fruit that you're going to see in the tabernacle. And there's seeds there. And it seems like there's this hardened rock, this seed that's just waiting there to be peeled open. And Yahweh's going to go get that pomegranate. And called out peace to them. Verse 14, then Benjamin returned at that time, and they gave them the women that they had kept alive, and the women of Jabesh Gilead. And they did not find enough for them. That means they found 400. How many men were there? 600. Now I'm doing the, spooky math going, okay, there's 4 days or 4,000 years between Adam and Eve and the coming of Messiah. And then there's I can do all that mental gymnastics. That's above my pay grade at the moment. Haven't figured it all out. If you do, let me know. That said, we can continue on. Just want to kind of put it in your mind bank there. I think I'm in verse 15, though I don't know. The people were sorry for Benjamin because Yahweh had made a breach in the tribes of Israel. Verse 16, then the elders of the congregation said, what shall we do for the wives of those who are left, since the women are destroyed out of Benjamin? And they said, there must be a possession for the survivors of Benjamin, so that a tribe will not be what? Blotted out from Israel. Do you not want your name written in the Lamb's Book of Life? Do you not want your name blotted out? This is all covenant language. This is the way they would have understood all this. You don't want your name blotted out. You are Benjamin. You are vile. Please, please, please yield to the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Stop being a wolf and give yourself over to him. Now, I can spiritualize all this stuff, but let me tell you, I'm going to unspiritualize it by saying, if your faith is not also on the bedrock of the commandments of our God, your faith without works is dead. We can give verbal assent all day long. I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe. Satan believes, the demons believe, and they shudder. We got to be real people. Yahweh knows how to look straight into here, and he knows what's going on. And if you want to know what's going on, first of all, don't trust your heart. But if you want to know what's going on, look at the members of your body. Are you giving the members of your body over to righteousness? Not your idea of righteousness, but you're yielding in non-rebellious attitude to our God, studying the Word for the sole purpose of saying, I can't do it on my own. I must know what you want me to do. I beat that up. But it really is that simple. And until everyone gets it, I can't stop saying it. Verse 18, but we cannot give them wives of our daughters, for our sons of Israel has sworn, saying, cursed is he who gives a wife to Benjamin. And let me tell you, their contracts back then were to the death. It was like a currency. If you went against your word, you could not be trusted in anything. So they did not go against their word. They had a lot of things wrong about them, but they didn't go against their word. I mean, even think about Daniel and the lion's den. I mean, did the king want Daniel to go in? No, but he gave his word. And if he did not put Daniel in the lion's den, though he didn't want to do that, he would have lost all authority. He would have lost the locker room. Verse 19, so they said, behold, there's a feast of Yahweh, probably Sukkot, called the Feast of Tabernacles, probably, from year to year in Shiloh, which is on the north side of Bethel. On the east side of the highway, goes up from Bethel to Shechem, and on the south side of Lebonah. I don't know how to say that one. And they commanded the sons of Benjamin, saying, we made an oath. We can't give them to you. But that doesn't mean you can't steal them. Okay? Go lie in wait in the vineyards and watch. And behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out to take part in the dances, then you shall come out of the vineyards, and each of you shall catch his wife from the daughters of Shiloh and go to the land of Benjamin. And it will be, when their fathers or their brothers come to contend with us, that we shall say to them," meaning the elders are saying this to the men of Israel, "that of course you're going to put on like airs, and you're going to come to the court, you're going to say, 'Those bad, bad men, they came to our feasts and they snatched our daughter.' And we're going to say back to you, 'Could you be gracious in this situation, please, to us concerning them, because we did not take for each man of Benjamin a wife in battle?'" Translation: you did kind of kill them all. You did take matters into your own hands. So we don't want our brothers to be blotted out of Israel, right? And it's kind of a goal to like kind of have a population kind of repopulate here. Could you kind of let this one go? "And you did not give your daughters to them, otherwise you would now be guilty of blotting out your brother from Israel." Now, this is not the way to handle stuff. But that's what the elders are telling to the men of Israel. "And the sons of Benjamin," verse 23, "did so and carried away wives according to their number from those who danced, 200, whom they stole away. And when they went and returned to their inheritance, their lands, and rebuilt their cities and lived in them." And in some kind of convoluted, weird sort of way, here's what I know about your life. You have taken matters into your own hands plenty. And Yahweh is so gracious and loves you so much that sometimes he'll still work through that despite you. He'll still get you to where you need to go. He's that good. I know my story. I know a lot of your stories. And you should not be here right now. But we all deserve to be laying our own vomit out there in the gutter. But somehow you're here. In your heart, you want to know how to walk with him. And it's not because you were good. It was because Yahweh has done something to use your mess of a situation to get you to this place. Thank him for it. Thank him for it. Verse 24, "Then the sons of Israel went away from there at that time, every man to his tribe and family, and each one of them went out from there to his inheritance." Yet the last verse, "In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes." There's a lot of right that is happening out there that actually converges with what Yahweh thinks is right. But the fundamental issue is not that. The fundamental issue is you think you can determine what is right. You can't. If there's overlap, great. When people give to the poor, sure, the Rotary Club does that. But they're of the tribe of Benjamin that will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. We're not here to be a Rotary Club. We are here to be humble, to be non-rebellious, to ask for forgiveness, to stop trying to get to where Yahweh wants us to get through our own things. And here's the thing. I think sometimes we think we end up at the right place. Here's the thing. It could have been so much easier, to Victor's point, which was so right. They could have done this the easy way. None of this, the concubine thing, the Jephthah and the sacrifice of his daughter potentially, all this stuff, all that stuff could have been skipped. And there isn't a person in here that hasn't gone back to the Garden of Eden and gone, "I wouldn't have eaten that." You did eat it. The moment you turned in your heart away from the Lord and chose to do things in your own way, and you thought, oh, I'm doing good, you ate of that apple, which is not an apple. We can't. And I think at the end of Judges, the question is, when will the madness stop? That's our question. When will the madness stop? Next week, in the whole existence of our church, we have not done anything on the New Testament. But next week we start. Which is awesome. I love Jesus. Yeshua. I love Yeshua. But here's what I know. My understanding of Yeshua is only as good as my understanding of the word that he embodied. Otherwise, I make up who Yeshua is. And I ain't doing that. So as much as I'm glad that we're going into Matthew, I want you to know that before Passover, we're going to go through the book of Ruth because we're going to see a man, Boaz, who's going to do things right. He's going to be a kinsman redeemer, a Goel, and we're going to learn how he does things right. And then we're going to go into Samuel and see Saul and see the clamoring for a king, and they get a king, and Yahweh's the whole time like, don't you understand? I want to be your king. But you're like the football player who won't do what I say. And think myself, the Lord, think myself that I am gracious and kind and compassionate, and I will not do what Coach Red did to that player. I don't yell at you. I don't berate you. I just wait patiently until your heart turns to me. I keep trying to bring you out to the desert that you will follow me. But until you follow, your life's just, our relationship's just kind of on hold because I got to get you over to that threshold. If you've not given your life to Yeshua, please start today. It's not a magic prayer. It is a decision. How do I know? Well, how do I know when I married Amy? I just married her. We don't have enough money. No, we did not. We just moved to that apartment. I hoped I could pay the rent. You ain't ever ready to follow. You're not ready. You make a decision and you follow. Same with the Torah. No one's ready. You make a decision and you follow. And because of love, you scrape and you pay the bills. And you do what's right in the context of the relationship. And we look to our Father and we say, we're married to you, Father. We love you. And I'm going to scrape. And I'm going to do what you say. And people are going to ridicule me for it. But you just do it. Yeah, I get a little preachy. And I don't even care. People need to hear this. We need to hear it. We need to be reminded. 2 months from now, our Yahweh will take care of us. We're not going to be sitting here, but we're going to be sitting somewhere. Maybe I should let it go now. Let's pray. Father, we love you. I love you. Forgive us of our many, many transgressions. Forgive us for all the times that we took matters into our own hands, even godly things. I don't want my own kids' names to be blotted out of Israel, and so I do things sometimes in sin to try to get that thing to work. And see what I'm doing? We all have experienced this. We've done good things, but the ends do not justify the means. You are a God who understood covenant, and you stepped into our place and became sin for us. Cause us to let that wolf inside of us go. Please provide a place for Yeshua's house that we might gather and worship and obey you. We love you and praise you in the name of Messiah Yeshua. Amen. Hey, could you stand? We'll sing one last song to our Abba. Abba in Hebrew means daddy.